Welcome back to another Road to Platinum video. As you guys can see, we are here with Gotham Knights today. This is a very controversial game at launch in terms of it being good or not. If you don't know how these kinds of videos work, basically I'm going to go a little bit over the Platinum and then make a little review at the end. Well, the review's the big part of the video. But we're going to get into it. So let's start with the Platinum portion of the video. The Platinum took me approximately 33 hours. Which could definitely be faster. All of the guides say about 20 to 22 hours. The Platinum, I just took my time on my first playthrough. And I also struggled to get certain crimes to pop up. So there's a lot of wasted time in between of doing those crimes that made the Platinum overall take longer. But the Platinum itself is fairly simple. It's all very straightforward. You should have quite a bit of trophies done by the time you finish the main story. The only trophies that are going to take time is doing the 250 crimes, which even that shouldn't take too long if you are doing crimes as you're playing through the main story. You should get done fairly quickly with that, though. The other trophies that I would say would be pretty hard is killing certain enemy trophies. You have to go to certain crimes that are a part of certain factions and kill a certain enemy type there. These trophies were kind of time consuming. I got them all done in about 6 or 7 hours. Which is pretty slow, but I couldn't get talents to spawn in that much, and that was the last trophy I was waiting for, and that took like 3 hours by itself. So it is what it is. It just spawns were not on my side. But yeah, so that was really the only trophy I had issues with, though. When you go to do the collectible trophies, I do highly recommend using a map guide, specifically an interactive map guide. It just helps out a lot and makes the whole collectible grind a little easier and less mind-numbing and time-consuming. But that's it in terms of the Platinum stuff. It was fairly straightforward. That was just a couple things I wanted to go over. But in terms of difficulty, I'd rate it like a 2 out of 10 in difficulty for the Platinum. It's fairly simple, very straightforward, and nothing to worry about overall. Now let's get into the review section of the game. The game is good. It's not great. It's not bad. It's good. It's average. When it works pretty well. What it's trying to be, for the most part, is just not what people want it to be. And that's why the game overall probably didn't do so well. I feel like if it did get more updates, it would have been a pretty good live service game. But because of the backlash at launch, it was just not good. As it could have been. It never got updates past the few initial updates, so it never reached its true full potential. But let's get into the story part of the review. And we'll be spoiling a little bit of the story, so beware. Skip about a minute or two ahead. Overall, the story, I'm not going to get super into it, but the story was very shitty. I enjoyed everything that happened in between. And I enjoyed watching our characters grow and how they have to deal with Batman being gone. But I don't like the fact that by the end of the game, everything we did was pointless. The League of Assassins are still in Gotham doing their thing, the Court of Owls has a new leader and is still in Gotham doing the same stuff, and Batman dies again after being reintroduced at the end of the game. Everything that happened was relatively pointless, and that sucks, but everything that happened in between is really good. I like seeing their main characters interact with all these few iconic villains and characters from classic DC movies, TV shows, comics, games, and watching the Gotham Knights grow together really has some special moments in the story. There's these moments in the Belfry where you could have a cutscene play, and you just watch the knights interact with each other, just in their day-to-day lives, and it works really well and it makes for some very special moments. It kind of reminds me of Midnight Suns in that aspect. If you guys played that, that's what it reminds me of, is like going around just talking to people, enjoying their company kind of thing. So that was really cool moments. Now let's get into the side content. The villain missions are pretty good. There's only 3 of them and each one has multiple missions under them. But I really enjoyed hunting down Harley Quinn, Clayface, and Mr. Freeze. All of these have very nice set pieces and some really fun boss fights. As you can see in the background, this is the set piece for Clayface, chasing him down the streets. But it was very fun. I really enjoyed riding my Batcycle and chasing down Clayface. Thought it was super fun. I do wish they were a little bit longer, and maybe there was more villains, because, like I said, 3 villains, and each of these are very short. Mr. Freeze probably has the best set pieces, but I forgot to record it. But his are pretty cool. His was some of the first gameplay we ever saw for Gotham Knights was his villain missions. So they're pretty fun. They're pretty fun. Harley Quinn's is not anything crazy, but Clayface's and Mr. Freeze has cool set pieces. But these have very nice set pieces, some really fun boss fights. As I said, Clayface's set pieces were very fun. But yeah, so now in terms of other side content, there's not really much. You have the crimes that are like the main thing for the story. You just go to a crime. Usually takes about 2 minutes or so. You just go through, kill everyone, do whatever little objectives there are. That's it. It's nothing crazy. There's also secret caches, which just give you a gear item. Those are found out by doing a little challenge that involves some form of traversal. And yeah, they're fun. They're short, but you get a nice little gear at the end. It's usually, I think it's heroic or legendary, so that is nice. And then there are Batcycle races, which are pretty fun, admittingly. Some of them have some dumbass moments though, because you'll be forced to do a ramp, and the ramp will literally just launch you into a fucking wall, so you lose all momentum. It sucks. But that's really it in terms of side content. There's nothing too crazy. There's not very much at all, really. I mean, you could do training and stuff, but that's just like tutorials. So, basically not much in terms of side content. But again, I think this is something that would have grown if the game kept getting updates. Which, as we know, never happened because of the backlash at launch. There was 2 updates, however, the Heroic Assault and the Kelvin incident. But I did not play either one of these because it wasn't my style of content, so I did not care for them. Now over to combat itself. It's relatively the same as the Arkham games without gadgets. Instead of having your standard Batman gadgets, you have abilities, but these vary from hero to hero and what they do, but each one has the category that it does fall into. So you have AoEs, single attacks, guard breaks, ranged abilities, things like that, just simple abilities to handle certain enemy types, to make the whole interaction easier with them. And it's really the only way to beat certain enemy types. But the combat is essentially the same as the other Batman games. You just go through, punch people. Once you're a higher level too, it does feel more like Batman because you are hitting people and killing them in 1 to 2 hits for your average guys, and then you have your bosses and mini bosses that take a few more hits, obviously. But there's a whole gear system in the game, which I guess we should talk about real quick. You have different rarities: common, uncommon, rare, legendary, and heroic. Each one is obviously just better than the last. Each of these are also tied to levels and power levels. Power levels can go up with mods, and these just give you a little boost to certain stats in the overall power level of the gear item. Some mods also for ranged and melee weapons can cause elemental effects, which is helpful against certain bosses and enemy types. The combat overall isn't anything too crazy. Each hero, as I said, has their own abilities, but they also each have their own weapons and ranged weapons and mobility. So Red Hood has his pistols and his fist. Batgirl has her little batons and batarang. Robin has his slingshot and staff, and Nightwing has his baton things as well. I don't know the names for them. And he shoots darts out of his wrist. And then in terms of their mobilities, Batgirl can glide with her cape like Batman. Nightwing can use his electric glider, and he is my favorite in terms of mobility because he can go forever. Basically, he doesn't lose altitude, and he's pretty fast. Robin can teleport using the Justice League space station. And then you have the Red Hood, who can do his little teleportation jump because of him being resurrected by the Lazarus Pit. But that's basically it for combat. It's fairly simple. You just have this whole gear system thrown on top with these abilities that aren't too crazy. In terms of enemy types, there's quite a few. You have a couple of factions. You have the Mob, the Regulators, the League of Assassins, the Court of Owls, the Freaks, and there might be a couple more. But each of these have their own enemy types, starting out with grunts, and then you got slightly stronger ones, snipers, gunners, mini bosses for each one. They all offer a variety, and not each grunt and mini boss are alike. Each of them have their own mechanics, which is really nice, and it keeps combat so much fresh when you're going around doing these crimes and interacting with these different factions. Sorry. Now let's get into the overall game world. The map itself is pretty great. There's a lot to see in the city, and I think this is one of my favorite depictions of Gotham. Just seeing all the neon lights with the fog wrapped around the buildings just looks phenomenal, and is easily one of the best cities I've seen in a game. Now at launch, the game did not look as good. There have been some tweaks graphically, and I feel like there are more people in the streets than there were at launch overall. Though the game world, the game world is beautiful, and the map is just the perfect size. The Bat Cycle is your main way for traversal for the ground, and it's quite fast. It's nothing too crazy, it's not like the Batmobile or anything, but it's pretty cool. The game overall is a solid game, and I'm not going to lie about it. I'm not going to go along with what everyone else says and immediately call it shitty and it's not good. It's pretty good. It's average. It's great. And yeah, so I'd rate the game about a 6 out of 10. It's slightly above average for me because I'm kind of just into DC a lot right now as well. And it works really well for me. I do wish it was more like your standard Batman experience, but what's here is good, and I wish it did get the chance to expand. So, yeah, that's it. This isn't like a super long Road to Platinum video like some of the other ones I have. It's not 25 to 30 minutes and breaking down a lot of stuff because it's a complex game, or it's a simple game. It's not complex in any way. There's nothing is too in depth. There's not very much like lore in the world that's like insane, at least. There's no crazy world building for the most part. It's a simple game. You go in, you beat up bad guys, you have some fun. I do think the Court of Owls is a very cool overall like idea, and I think it could work better if this was a standard single player game. But it does suck because I do really think that the story, the way it was left like that so it could expand. I think if this game got updates, it could have been really good, because the way the story ended really made you feel like there was going to be more, and we never got to see it. We never got anything expanded upon, nothing like that, and it did suck, but it is what it is. Hopefully Warner Bros. Is starting to learn from their mistakes with this and Suicide Squad, to see that live service games are not the future for everything. You could still make live service games, and they will be good sometimes, but you don't need to be only making live service games. So hopefully Warner Bros. Figures that out, because Hogwarts Legacy was a pretty good game, and it did fairly well. It did really well. So hopefully they realize that single player games are still the future, and they don't have to only do live service games. But yeah, I was very happy with my experience for what it is. I had about 2 hours in the game at launch, and then I just deleted it because I wasn't enjoying myself that much. But after I replayed it, I do think it's a solid game, and I do wish I played it a little sooner. The only reason I played it now too is because I have this little app on my phone where all my games are in, and it just spins through them and it picks my next platinum. So this popped up and I did it, and it was a decent experience overall. I will say that the next Road to Platinum video is going to be Biomutant. I did the wheel thing right before this video so I could figure out what my next platinum is going to be so I could download it. And it's Biomutant, which that's another controversial game in terms of it being good or not. It seems like the community is very split on that. Half of it says it's good, half of it says it's bad. So we're going to play that next. That's a decent sized open world RPG, so. And that's a single player game, that's not a live service game, so. I think I'll like it a little bit more than this probably, but yeah, that's going to be the next Road to Platinum video. I don't know when it'll be out because it does take me a lot of time to do these, platinum sometimes, just because it'll be like an hour a day maybe. So average platinum is like two weeks to a month, you know. So, but yeah. So that was Gotham Knights. 6 out of 10, like I said, solid game. I do recommend playing it if you haven't, and you're itching for that kind of experience, but you don't want to go back to the Arkham games. I do recommend it. It may not scratch that itch entirely, but it will give you something in that in the DC universe. It's not in the same universe as the Arkham games. But yeah. So hope you guys enjoyed this Road to Platinum video. If you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment down below what you guys want to see on the channel in the future, and I'll see you guys very soon in the next one. Stay safe out there, and peace out, guys.